Society of Safety Engineers. Now it's American Society of Safety Professionals. So the ASSP, I did this presentation, and it was very highly attended, which I really liked. It was good to see everybody out, and it was the last session of the day. So even being the last session of the day, seeing some people still there was good. And so I really enjoyed my time, and the Blacks in Safety Excellence, that's the BISE group, B-I-S-E, they sponsored this for me. So it was good. And so here's a little bit about myself. I'm currently the president of the South Florida chapter of the ASSP now, and I've got my master's in public administration, and I also have a concentration in environmental policy, 20 plus years now in safety and health, and I moderate the Safety Culture Online executive coaching for those of you that want to get past OSHA compliance. Just go to safetyculture.online, take a look at some of the resources you have available for you there, and that is one of the groups that I do work with on my coaching side. I do the 10 to 30 hour for construction, and also I'm a certified occupational safety specialist, certified, have a certificate of occupational safety managers, and I'm an instructor for both of those courses. And the last bullet, I am an SME for a few organizations. So with that, let's get into it. The tides of OSHA has changed. So you're going to see a lot about the new administration. That's why I like the name with the Donald Trump administration. It was the catch-all that got people into the room. But the change in administration also means that there's a change in the mindset. So every time there's an administration change in OSHA, you will see a different vein, a different way that the administration will complete its the organizational's vision and goals and mission. So the mission stays the same, it's just how they go about completing the mission changes. So in this one, we'll talk a lot about the regulatory compliance, talk about the budget itself, the role of the state agency versus federal, go over a little bit on the VPP and the SHARPS program. I'll give you guys a little view of safety culture and just the core elements of the safety culture. And then also within this, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the employees of OSHA and how these new rules and the future of OSHA has a lot to do with the employee level. So the climate has changed regulatory, and I kind of stayed away from you guys that are in process safety management with the air quality regulations on the EPA side, only because they're going through a bigger change than OSHA. So if you are a PSM entity, you really need to look at that and figure out what your compliance is going to be in the next few years on the PSM side. So right now, I'm going to use this guidance here of the OSHA record-keeping rule, and this record-keeping rule was something that came out just right at the tail end of Dr. Michael's tenure with OSHA, and the new rule, the electronic record-keeping, was there to kind of nudge people, as you see there in quotations, to do the right thing, to be good actors, and then also it exposes people who weren't good actors for their efforts and non-efforts in keeping people safe. So that employee side was, now they could see any company that they want to deal with, how well that they do with safety and health through public records, because the 300, the 301, and the 300A summary logs are now available for everyone to see. So that's what the rule was intended to, was just to get people really thinking about my actions aren't just left in-house. My actions are going to be able to be seen by the general public. And that's what that record-keeping rule was supposed to do, the mindset to it. It was taken from what's called behavioral economics. And the behavioral economics is that psychological study of how people spend their money with different things that are introduced to them. So a psychological side of it would be if you rated restaurants and you rate them with stars or you rate them with letters, you would always seek to go to the biggest quality, the highest quality, the highest rated restaurant. That's what the record keeping rule was basically looking at. It was looking at, let's see a good way for us to point out those people are doing exceptional work as far as safety and health is concerned, so now they could get extra business. And then those people that are not doing well, then in effect it's going to hurt them economically. And so that economic burden is going to be a driver for them to do the right thing for their employees' safety. Another reason for that new rule for the OSHA change in the record keeping was OSHA did not have enough regulators to do what they needed to do. And without having enough regulators, and you can see in this bullet right here, number one, with the amount of regulators they had, it would take them to get to that 8 million workplaces about 100 years to inspect each workplace. So they couldn't do that. It wasn't financially sound for them to do that. So that's why they developed the record keeping rule, especially the electronic component. However, in the near future, I would look at the regulatory agenda for OSHA. In the near future, they're going to change the way that the record keeping rule is thought of. And the reason is it's twofold. One, they're going to change it because of the big outcry from industry about having their information public on the record keeping. And then the other thing was OSHA says, oh, it's not really big to have the 301 form, which is the injury form, the notice of injury, and then the 300 form, which gives you more details. They said, let's just stick with the summary. The summary is good enough where you just have the numbers of injuries that there is. So that's going to stay. However, they're going to include that with the employee numbers, the employer numbers, the EIN numbers, your IRS number. It's the Social Security number for businesses. So that is going to help OSHA really, really focus in on efforts of who they should be enforcing and who needs compliance assistance. So that's the future of this new rule. So get a good eye on the regulatory agenda. So let's talk about the new administration. When the new administration came in, one of the first things that was signed under Congressional Review Act was the Volks Rule. So the Volks Rule said that it was illegal for OSHA to regulate and to actually cite anybody for anything over 6 months, when OSHA was using the 1904 record-keeping rule to cite people up to 5 years where they needed to keep records. So anytime within your year 5 to the current time frame, if you had any violation that they found in the record keeping, you could be cited. So this company fought, they won, and what happened was that rule, that revision rule that was made in late 2016, then they actually, the Congress and Senate, they voted to repeal the rule, and then the president signed it under the Congressional Review Act, and that came in as January 18th, 2017. So I looked at the wording of the act, and the wording of the act in Section 9C did say that no citation may be issued under the section after the expiration of 6 months following the occurrence of any violation. So this rule is right, that this CRA, the Congressional Review Act, so it actually did something good there, right? So according to that, if it's any of those citations over 6 months, you want to make sure that you get those, you don't say anything like week 5, or I should say month 5 after getting an actual citation. You don't want to start bringing any of that up as saying, hey, what happened to OSHA? How come they haven't got me a citation yet? They visited 5 weeks ago. So we don't want to say that. That's not one of the things that we want to look at. So the next thing that you want to that we're going to point out, and I'm replying to someone that said they couldn't see me yet, so I'm going to make sure I get that in. I'm a one-man show, so I'm replying at the same time. Excuse me as I get that one. So the Congressional Review Act was used once before, and that was with the President Bush era, from Clinton to Bush. The regulation was the ergonomics rule. So that ergonomics rule was a big difference. They had it all set up. We're going to get some ergonomics for regulation, so everyone knows exactly what you're supposed to do, how to do it, the standardized way of looking at ergonomics. And when the Bush administration came in, March 20, 2001, that actually that rule was overturned. So we do not have the ergonomics rule. And the Congressional Review Act, the biggest thing about that is that you will not ever see it again because of the ruling of the Congressional Review Act. Once it's struck down for good. So let's talk a little bit about the budget. So the budget itself, we do have, I compared the budget from 2018 to 2019. So that 2018 budget that you're seeing up here, those are some of the things that was taken away, and they only had a couple of things that were added, but for the most part, they try to keep it static. They really wanted the budget balance from one year to the next. The big thing that was missed was that Harwood grant. So a lot of that Harwood grant information was missing because the money was taken. You're going to see in this presentation the FTE. So what FTE means is full-time equivalent, and that's in hours. So if you're looking at full-time equivalent hours, then that means that a person who is supposed to do a job for any of the activities of OSHA has to spend their time to do it. So that employee working, and they do it in a 40-hour block, is giving a FTE, their full-time equivalent hours of that activity being done. So you'll see a lot of that in this budget overview. So the budget here that you're looking at is the 2019 budget, and that's currently proposed. So hopefully we'll find out for sure if it's going to be ratified or not, but right now it's proposed, and it's still giving me an idea of what's going on with OSHA. So you're going to see, I'm going to break these down individually, but this is just a nice little overview. So when you see static means there's no change from 2018 to 2019, but when you see increase, you will definitely see the number of increases that it's gone. So the federal enforcement increase is probably something that's really I didn't expect to go up that much, and it did. It went up 42 full-time equivalent hours. And then I did expect the compliance assistance to go up, and that went up by 32 full-time equivalent hours. So that's a sign that they're going to go into more and more compliance. So that was the overview of the budget. But even before we get to that, this is OSHA's current, as the time of this recording, their current organizational chart. And there was a man named Scott Mugno that was ratified to become the new head of OSHA twice. He went through the process, but still he's not the head of OSHA right now. So something is happening in that process. And I don't know if it's deliberate or not, but it is something to mention. Without a head of any department, it really becomes hard to get the activities of that organization done. So that in itself could be some of the things that you're thinking about as the future of OSHA is, yeah, you might have a few things that you may be a little ambiguous on. So I'm going to move into the budget activities. As I told you, it's going to break down all the different activities, starting with the safety and health. On the left side is the goals of that budget item, and then on the right is some resources to help you with that budget item. So on the left, they're looking to reduce regulatory activity, and then they're also looking to go through what's called a standards improvement project. And the standards improvement project is going to look for anything that needs to be repealed, replaced, modified, and that is what they're really looking to do, as opposed to getting more and more and newer standards. The last bullet, you'll see create 30 compliance guidance documents. So those guidance documents are coming in, they're new. They're going to be really good to see what documents they end up being, but that's a resource for you. Once you get those documents in, then you'll be able to start seeing how to comply with some of these standards and what to do to better protect your employees from injury or illness. And the resources on the right, a lot of these things are just due with forward thinking. Safety management system, a safety culture, the ISO 45001. Following those things are really forward thinking. The other resources is being very, very aware of the unified agenda on OSHA.gov and just see when there's any regulatory changes coming up. OSHA is also looking for the Safe and Sound campaign to go really well in August so that everyone participates in that. They're spending a lot of money in advertising, so that is a campaign that's supposed to be a compliance assistance campaign. Federal enforcement, OSHA's got this new weighing system that they've been trying to put into place, and this weighing system is also going to be for the compliance officers. So the mindset for these compliance officers has been in the past, activity, 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 and the most activity that they do will equal raises, will equal promotions. That's what they're looking at. The activities could be frantic activities of just pulling low-hanging fruit, and you have one enforcement agent that is getting a whole bunch of low-hanging fruit. The people who are on the roofs without fall protection, or on the ladders or scaffolds that you could see right out from the street that looks terrible, and they're pretty much filling the portfolio with these things. So if that happened, or has been happening, that means the people that are getting the higher product, like those people that are doing, or compliance officers that are doing the process safety management, that's very tough. Fatality reporting, that's very tough, takes time. So those are truly some of the actual dealings in inner workings between one compliance officer over the next. So the new OSHA weighing system and the enforcement units, those things are going to go into place, and those enforcement units are there to make sure the agency is going to prioritize higher, stronger, or I should say more complex investigations, things that have high hazards. So as you're seeing these units here, the highest hazards that you see are process safety management inspections, heat hazard inspections, ergonomics inspections high up there. So those are going to be weighted higher than any of the other ones. Like a rapid response investigation is really low, because that's what you're seeing when someone is calling OSHA saying, oh, we just had one person put in the hospital, and OSHA follows up on that. That's a rapid response. So that's one is a little bit, a lot lower rated, because that's low-hanging fruit. So the compliance officers are going to be graded on this. This is what their goals are going to be, and if they meet these targets, meet these goals, then that is truly what their raises are going to be. So you want to kind of, especially if you're in any of these top 12 industries or high EU, you want to really be aware of, especially if you have a local emphasis too. I can't forget about that. A local emphasis and national emphasis, and where your activity, you're going to see some compliance officers in the future. The whistleblower program, that is enforced by OSHA, 22 whistleblower statutes across several agencies. That's 11C violation. So they are the ones that go out there and they make sure that any of those whistleblowers are going to have protection. They're going to have investigation. They're going to modernize the software for this. They're going to have special investigators, more training. They're really going to go into anti-retaliation programs and documentation. So that is one of the things that you should really look out for. There's going to be a new course for inspectors called the Legal Aspects and Settlement Techniques Related to Whistleblowing. So it's a big issue there that you'll be able to really see. I threw in this one with the retaliation because this one is a big topic from last year on if my worker has an accident and I needed to take him down to the clinic to do a post-accident drug screen, am I going to have a violation from OSHA? And that was a big issue. That was an update in the 11C violation. And the answer is complicated because one of the things that you have to look for is, are you doing anything drug testing after an accident related to workers' comp, related to maybe DOT rules? Then they have precedent over OSHA in this. So then as long as you do it as complied through them, you're good. And so you're good to go there. State programs, OSHA will pay 50% of the state's operating costs, so it's great for the state programs. 22 state plans to cover both public and the private sector. 40% of the U.S. workers are under a state plan. So it's a very big need to make sure that you're aware of your state plan voluntary protection program. You got to be aware of your state campaigns, your local emphasis programs. Those are really the things that you should be looking at. And 16 state programs have what's called a safety and health management system, which is going to safety culture. So you don't want to violate any of those as you're learning a little bit more about the future of OSHA. Your technical support is truly that. It's for tools and resources for investigation. That's where this money's coming from. It's also money that they use for sampling and other entities like that to develop the technical guidance. All of that development cost comes from this budget. What you should do, though, is learn a little bit more about your specific hazard, especially if it's technical, like combustible dust, electrical, chemical exposure, trenching and excavation. Those are documents that will be coming out, but you have to learn as much as you can on how to be compliant, because those are also national or local emphasis programs. So you're going to see some compliance because of that. Compliance assistance. There's some help coming for compliance assistance. It's going to be 24 new compliance assistance specialist positions, and out of that, 8 dedicated compliance assistance specialists for the VPP program, Voluntary Protection Program. So now's the time to put in an application for those if you're at that level. The SHARPS program, Safety and Health Achievement Recognition Program. Now's the time to do those applications, because OSHA is definitely going to try to help assist assistance compliance to get those things going, get those things out. And so look for those. There's resources for it. And if you're in a state that actually has a backlog, help is coming. So that backlog is going to start diminishing. So good time to get involved in that. Your VPP overview, you have your compliance letter 0301003. You find that and you'll get that compliance guidance to get into the VPP program. Compliance assistance for the states. They're usually working with the SHARPS program, and that's very big if you could do that. You are going to see some more collaboration between small business development centers and the state plans because they really help them get their fulfillment of their mission done. I put in here the OSHA 3885. So that 3885, that one is actually it's going to help you find out how to do OSHA compliance. So if you could do an OSHA compliance, pretty much not a compliance as much as it is safety culture, and it'll help you with if you're in any of those 16 states that have a safety and health management system, that's compliance for them. But for everyone else, this is pretty much to help you with your culture. And so I would definitely look at that for culture-based. Culture, shared values. It's what we do here, a system of accountability, equal safety and production at the same level. That's what we're thinking of when we're thinking culture. And I gave you in this next page the 7 core elements of a safety culture, and this is coming from OSHA's documents. They actually have 2 of these now, one for general industry, one for construction, but they're using the same principles for safety consulting, a safety culture. Susan Harwood grant, though every year it's always on the chopping block, it is again eliminated this year, but every once in a while when they say eliminated, you'll still see a period where the grants show up, and that Harwood grant is really good for training, but the contention is they never really know exactly how well the training is being done. So that's why they say that the training may not be what they're looking for. So they're going to use the compliance assistance to take over the gap in training that the Harwood grants is going to create by not being there. The safety and health, OSHA.gov is a robust system, and the information technology is going to get even better because they're going to have some targeted improvements in that computer system. So I would keep a good eye on the OSHA.gov, all those resources on the right side of this slide. I would really look to those and make sure that you guys are going to keep an eye out for those. I'm going to take a quick chat box look. It looks like we're still holding out over there. If anyone's got a question, please just throw it in because we're about to get into the Q&A. So I'm looking at any other questions that may have been submitted in any way, and then I'll make sure I get back to those. So the executive direction that you're seeing here, these are advisory committees. I had 5 before, so we're actually missing 2. But these advisory committees are the ones that help OSHA create any of the standards for whatever industry it is, maritime, construction, there's a bunch of them. But the reason that this one is so important with the executive direction, a lot of the money that's been taken to provide for other FTEs has been coming out of this executive direction category. But they are going to include some new training for OSHA compliance officers and OSHA employees. One is that 9410, coaching your staff to achieve their fullest potential. And one is 9420, OSHA supervisory development. So this is really going to help those compliance officers that are ready to get into supervisory. And there's actually going to be a lot more training for them as well. So those are 2 very good courses coming up. So you should, if you are an OSHA, there might be something for you to keep in mind that you're getting some help, you're getting some training back. So before I go into Q&As, I do have the safety culture online, And if you are ready to get into a safety culture, this is an executive coaching for you, for your company, for your association. You could get some help to get past compliance into safety culture. So you go to safetyculture.online, take a look around the site, hit the Join Us tab, and then you can see our pricing, and it's really good. I work with everyone I can in this, so we will work together to get you guys into a culture. Those of you that are consultants listening, I do have a safety consultant group, and in this group, I coach new consultants, and it is safetyconsultant.xyz. So right now, I'm doing a $10 first month, so that you could, see how it works for you, see if it helps you with your clientele. So go to safetyconsultant.xyz, flip through the site a little, see how it is, and when you're ready, do the Join Us tab and join us as a safety consultant group. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. So I'm going to go into, where's the stop sharing? I'm going to look and see if I've got any Q&A over there. Back up a little so you can see the full awesomeness of the shirt. Yeah. So I'm looking at both the safety consultant group on my phone, so it might take a little while for me to update. And then if there are any questions, please let me know so I could give you guys some good answers there. So I don't see anything here. I actually could do an email check at the same time just to make sure I'm not missing anybody. So I am very grateful to have brought this information to you. And again, if I don't see any questions, I'm just going to pass it on. And I do not, so very good. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. I'm going to share this link for those of you that did register and couldn't have made it, so that you could get to see it over again. And you can also look at it at the YouTube channel too. So I'll share that link as well. So have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you next time.